So one of the things that our students have been asking is, what do you do when you have to do a like if they ask you to do a discursive? I think it can be quite tricky to integrate the stimulus that they give you into a discursive. And we're going to go into this a little bit more detail, but often a creative does seem to work a little bit better with the stimulus extracts that they give you, but it is really important that you have a discursive that you practiced and that you are able to actually use it. So in this video, we're going to take you through how to look at a stimulus and write a discursive with it, just so you make sure you're prepared for that if it does happen in the HSC. So over to you, Lily.
Okay, great. All right. So this is a past HSC question that we have here, and we have an extract and we have a question, and we also have a reflection that you need to prepare for this. So yeah, as Carla said, we're just going to pretend that this question doesn't have the option of imaginative and it's just a discursive question. So what we always want to start with is just reading that first part of the question here. In composing the response, so the part A for the composition part. All right, so this one says, continue this extract as a piece of imaginative, discursive, or persuasive, we're going to say discursive, writing that evokes a particular emotional response from the reader. Note, you are not required to write out the extract, which we already know. So this is an interesting one here because we have continue this extract, and we also have a particular emotional response in the reader. So that tells us that when you're writing the piece, you're going to assume that this is already like an epigraph or already the start of your piece. So going through that extract is going to be really important. In also underlining the keywords, we also know that your piece has to focus on emotions of some kind. So it's probably going to be important in reading the stimulus to identify what sort of emotions are being evoked within it. So yeah, so we're looking on how we can continue this and what emotions we can draw from it and how they relate to our own piece. So that already gives us guidance about how to read the stimulus purposefully and what you're looking to draw from it for your own piece. Okay, so now we're going to approach the stimulus. So, twice before, a book had turned him inside out and altered who he was, had blasted apart his assumptions about the world and thrust him into a new ground where everything in this world suddenly looked different and would remain different for the rest of time, for as long as he himself went on living in time and occupied space in the world. So this is quite a long extract and we actually have quite a lot of ideas coming from it. But this is where, again, underlining things is really important to help you break it down. And you'll actually see that there's quite a few things that you can take away from this that might actually relate to ideas that you already have. So first of all, we have twice before a book. So when we see something like this often throws people because the first immediate reaction they're going to have is that they have to talk about a particular book. Like they have to talk about To Kill a Mockingbird and how it shaped them, or they have to talk about, some other book that they've really liked. But really what this is just telling us is the element of the book is really like craft, writing in general, reading. So elements like that we already know of Mod C, and hopefully you've already incorporated this, is a metafictional element. So this could be yourself, like if you have a piece that's talking about how you craft a piece of writing or a creative outlet of some kind and why that's important, that's already something that you can use here and be drawing from. So that's, we just want to interpret that as like having a metafiction element, which hopefully is something that you've already picked up on that you kind of need in these Mod C pieces because they always allude to the craft of writing in some way. So hopefully you're prepared for that, but you definitely don't have to approach it as like it's just a book, like some kind of book. You just sort of take the parts of it that you want and just that element of craft. Okay, then we also have some bigger ideas here that we can like draw from. So assumptions about the world is a great one. So that's telling us challenging assumptions. So in a discursive piece in general, you're going to be having a discussion and probably going to have elements about it from your piece that are challenging us to see something in a different way, or it's going to be discussing two sides of a story. So as long as you can kind of work the word assumptions in there or talk about how we've changed our perspective on a world, or how an element of craft helps us to consider different ideas or helps us improve our lives in some way, you should be able to approach this stimulus quite well. So we'll make a note of some of the key ideas here from the stimulus. So we know that we have to have an element of metafiction / craft. We also know challenge assumptions about the world. Assumptions about the world. So you'd want to link that to ideas in your own piece. And we also have some other great like lines that you can draw from and probably quote directly. I would recommend quote directly from the stimulus with just some phrases, with small phrases, every now and again, at least twice probably, just to show that the marker that you're really dealing with that stimulus. Otherwise, it can feel a little bit disconnected and we're not really sure, we're not really sure how you're linking your stimulus in general. You do also have the option to craft like an extended metaphor from something here to really, to really drive home that you're linking to the stimulus. So we've got elements of like the world being blasted apart. That could be an interesting extended metaphor. Or we have space in the world and doing something with that. Also time. So a lot of these different ideas you could use to craft some sort of extended metaphor that within your piece that links things together. I quite like the world being blasted apart. That's an interesting one that links to a lot of ideas. If you're challenging us to see something differently, the world being blown up or things being blasted apart, like even like glass shattering or something like that, is a really interesting one that you could do that really clearly links to this stimulus. Finally, we have to identify emotions, and you will want to probably include an emotion in your piece, like literally reference a word, an emotion, and make that really clear, because that's what we want here, like an emotional response. So I would identify what sort of emotions you feel here. So we've got elements of change here, which often leads us to like shock or joy or hope, happiness, being confronted, even fear. If things are like, changing rapidly, you might feel that sense of fear. So linking your piece to one of those and having a really clear emotional response that you want the reader to feel from it, and probably referencing that and stating a particular emotion throughout would be really important to show the marker that you're really answering this question. And then when you come to the reflection, you can say specifically what emotion you're trying to evoke in your piece. So yeah, I think that's everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So give that one a practice, and look, as I said, it may be likely that you'll be asked a creative or imaginative if they're going to specify. Otherwise, they tend to give you an option, but definitely make sure that you practice your discursive regardless. Good luck.